I have here my version of Proclaim. Now, I should let you know that I do actually use Proclaim every Sunday at my church. I shouldn't say my church, it's really the Lord's church where I serve. I am a bivocational pastor. I preach weekly, and we use Proclaim for our messages and announcements and everything. So really love it. It's been great. It's been stable. We don't use all the features for a variety of reasons, and we'll talk about that. But overall, I've been using this now for nearly 2 years, and we have come to depend on it. It is very reliable, very practical, and for the most part, pretty easy to use. And I have used other tools like Pro Presenter and a few others, PowerPoint, obviously. And I think there's some real benefits, especially if your pastor or you are a Logos user and you are responsible for teaching, making PowerPoints, etc. There's some real good integration. All right, so let's get started. And let me just back up just 1 minute. So that's all the disclaimer there. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just walk you through the interface, the main menus, and then we'll get into various features. And like I said, feel free to ask me questions along the way. Okay, so pretty straightforward here in the interface. In fact, let me turn on my little menu here so I can highlight things along the way since we're not inside Logos. Okay, so obviously you have the menu up here. That's the main menu. Then you have over here kind of the sign in, on air, stuff like that. Then over here you have what is actually being presented, okay? Think of this as the confidence monitor. You're seeing what's being displayed. Down here is kind of where you are in the presentation, pretty helpful. And then this information is used when you're editing a slide and so forth. So a lot of information is present on the screen, okay? Now, let me walk you through the menu so you kind of understand overall what's going on. Obviously, the file menu is pretty straightforward. You can open, sync, and so forth. So I will create a presentation here at my house, and then we have a laptop at church. As soon as I turn it on, they're both connected to the internet. One will sync with the other. Now, the cool thing about the syncing is I can sync now, and the way you know it's synced is right here, okay? This little green circle. All right, that tells me I'm all synced up. So once I see that green circle with the check mark, I can shut down Proclaim, and then whenever I open up another Proclaim in another location, I'll just wait for it to sync up, and once it has the circle with the check mark that's green, then I know it has the full presentation. Be aware that if you have some large videos, that can take a little extra time. You got to be careful for that. So you always want to make sure you got plenty of time to sync up. A good rule of thumb is at least 15 to 30 minutes before you want to sync up before you use the presentation. Sometimes some things can go wrong, but that's very, very rare. More often than not, if you just reboot, you're good to go. Okay. All right, so let me click on File. One of the features that's really cool is the duplicate feature. This is a great time saver in that if you create a presentation, you can reuse it week after week after week. And that's what I do because a lot of things are being repeated or reused. And so this is a great example of my presentation for August 11th. And when I was creating the August 18th presentation, I clicked Duplicate. Let me do that. You can then choose the one you want to duplicate, and then you click on that number. Let's say I want to duplicate the 11th again, all right, and it's now duplicated. Now, this is really important. After you duplicate it, you'll see very quickly that you have to change these two items. So we would want to put in the date of the next presentation, make sure it's the right date, and then you want to also put that in the label. Always, it's a good best practice to make sure those always match. Now I'm going to put temp on here because I already have an 18th presentation that I'm working on. So I love the duplicate feature for that very reason. I also have an open recent, so I can just click on that and I can open up my previous presentation. Now let me add a word of caution here. Make sure you're very aware when you duplicate. When I was first starting to use this, I did a duplicate, but I didn't properly, sometimes I forgot where I was at. I end up overwriting some of my original presentation. So be aware of what you're duplicating and what you're changing. That's why I like these to match. and that helps me avoid that situation. So great feature. You'll notice there's a share here. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, back on the file menu, you can also import PowerPoints and some of these other tools, which is pretty helpful. I've never had a need to use these Planning Center and Volunto worshipplanning.com, but you have that ability. You insert a PowerPoint, it's pretty straightforward. It just brings your slides in, very straightforward. You can back up the presentation as a PRS file, and then you can move it around. I've never had to do that since we can share the app and do it that way. So that's pretty handy though. One other thing is the View Digital Bulletin. This was actually pretty handy. Let me go ahead and open this up and show you what's going on. So because I am the pastor, I have an associate that I work with, and at one time he was doing the announcements. So what I would do is he would log in and I would publish this, and then he could see all the announcements and all the slides with the Bible reading and so forth. This is also great if you're a part of a group at Faith Life and you want to share this information with other people. So as you can see, it's real easy. It shows up. It looks just like it would on the slides on the computer. So I love the little digital bulletin. And of course, if your church has it, then they can see these slides as well. Very nice. And you can also print the presentation out. Pretty straightforward. Let me just demonstrate that real quick. So you do have to sign in. And let me go ahead and authorize this. And then there you go. And so now we've got kind of this view, and we can kind of print all this out. Notice that there is notes that you could have associated with these, and you have the order of service. So either way, it's real handy and a very practical way for a larger church organization. So beware of this nice little feature. Okay. Now let's go to the next item. If there's no questions, we'll move to add items. Now, this is pretty amazing. This is where I spend most of my time in building a Proclaim presentation. You can see that I can add a lot of information. So what I'd like to do is just do a blank presentation for the moment. So I'm going to do File, New, and I'm just going to do Presentation and keep it blank. And you'll notice that right here there are 4 elements. Let me go ahead and highlight those. So we have a name here, so we'll just call this Proclaim Presentation Webinar. All right, and we press enter. Obviously, you're going to choose the date that you're going to present on, and then we have these 4 sections right here. And let me see if I can get this highlighted. There we go. All right, this is actually really handy. We have a pre-service loop, a warm-up, a service, and a post-service loop. Now, the pre-service loop is exactly what it is. It's slides that you just want to rotate as people are coming into the church. The warm-up is your transition between the pre-service and the service. So we have a 1-minute counter, and everyone's been trained. When they see that, they know that the service is about to start, and really straightforward. Then we have the service itself. Notice I have my specific time in there. We can change that to any time we want, and so it's smart. And then if you put your time in there, everything will flow according to the clock. And then after your service is over, there's a post-service loop, which we have a few items, and we'll go back to that in a little bit. But this is important to have this all planned out in advance. And I love this capability. So a lot of times we're reusing the pre-service and the post-service and the warm-up. What changes week to week is the service or a few of the pre-service. Okay? Now, let's walk through each of these items so you can see the capability within Logos, Proclaim software. So we have paid for CCLI license. This is really helpful and has been a great strategy for us. So we have a license number, and we can type in songs. So, for example, if we were to put At Calvary as our song, you'll see right away any songs related to this title. Now, this happens all the time. Really annoying, actually. You have to relink the account. All right, so I'll go ahead and do that again. And let's do Power of Cross. That's pretty good. Power of the Cross. All right, so the wonderful feature here is that I now link to CCLI, which again is a subscription. I have now the rights to display the lyrics and play the music. That's the real power. And so we can see here's the Power of the Cross. I'm going to choose this one down here, okay? And you'll see that I have the main arrangement. I can put in the key, import the chords. There's a lot of capabilities within this. And then there's the on-screen title, the artist, and the lyrics. Okay, so I'll click Add to Song. And this is what's so wonderful. I now have inserted the complete lyrics. You can see those slides there at the bottom. And so I have them all there. And then I can edit it. But one of the nice features of Proclaim is I can check this box right here, and I can choose the chorus and the verse to be displayed. So if I want verse 1, there it is. If I want the chorus 1 to follow, I can do that. If I want to skip verse 2, then I can delete verse 2, and I can put verse 3. You'll see right away that everything changes down below. I've got 1 for verse 1, C for chorus, 3 for verse 3, and then 4, and then so forth. So I can change this very easy. Great question, and that is, do you have to worry about the length of the verses? You sort of do and sort of don't. The Proclaim software will insert it automatically and make it fit. And usually they break it down one verse at a time, so you should be fine. However, if you want to go in and edit then, you can do that as well. But if you just leave it alone, you can see it here. You also have the ability to preview it. So if we click preview, we can see it here. And then I can go there and go, you know what, I'd like to make that a little bit bigger. So I can click on edit there at the top. I can click inside this box. Another quirky thing about Proclaim, traditionally you would select something and then change the font size, but not in Proclaim. You just click and then you can change the font size. And you'll notice that if I go down below, the lyrics will change, and I should, here it says 1 or more lines on this item have been scaled to fit the slide. Add a line break to refine layout. So it will give you a little heads up if you're too big. And but again, what you want to do ultimately is kind of test it just to make sure. But normally you do not have to worry about it. Worst case scenario is you can do this manually and just create some blank slides, insert your own text. And that's one strategy you can do. So we can go add item and we can go content. Okay. And then what you can do is you can copy and paste back and forth. So instead of this verse 1, verse 2 and lose all those features, now we can go manual. We can paste it in there. And now I can begin to really customize it. All right. And there you go. So I wouldn't be using then the music feature. I'd be using a content slide. So you've got both options. But I have never been concerned about size of text when I let Proclaim automatically do everything. And really wonderful, capable feature there. So great question, Sylvia. Appreciate that. Okay, so that's adding a song. Let me go ahead and do that. Now, you can add music to the songs, and we'll show how to do that. But basically, there's a couple approaches. You can click on the little speaker icon, and you can import, and then you can navigate. This is one way. If you already have an MP3 file or maybe even a video, you could associate that and make it work. Now, we'll talk about music videos in a minute, but this is treating it as two separate elements, text and audio, okay? Maybe you just want a piano accompaniment. That's all you want. And there's a lot of those. This would work really well. Okay, so let's go to the next one, Bible. Now, this is pretty straightforward. You just type in a verse. So I'll type in John 3:16 through 19. And notice that Logos has a drop-down menu. I can see other contexts. I'm going to go with 3:16 through 19. Now this one, where we're just doing a Bible verse, is just that. We're going to get a Bible verse. Now notice we have some settings here. We can show, let me make a little more room here so we can read this. All right, there we go. So we can show the reference on every side. We can include the verse numbers. We can include the section headings. We can show the version on every slide. We include the words of Christ in red, which is pretty handy. You can see that there. We can break slides on paragraphs, or we can do one verse per slide, and we can do fully formatted. All right, so there's a lot of capability here to really make things interesting. Yes, you're absolutely right, Sylvia, and that's why I'm going to show you a different approach in a few minutes here. If you are going to treat it separate, you could run into this incompatibility of syncing up video, sound, and text. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So with the verses, you can see you can change your translation. There's really a lot of options here. You can do this by purchasing more Bibles at Logos, or you can just go online and copy and paste the text. So there's no need to purchase, but having this seamless integration with Logos is nice. All right, and so we can fade in the text. We have some options there. We can fill in the blank so people can do things. So there is some interesting capabilities in here. And we can also auto advance. There's a lot of this auto advancing, and I do like this fade feature, which is pretty handy as well. Now, that's the basic Bible verse slide. Let's go to the next item and do on-screen Bible. This is a lot different, and this is the one that I prefer to use now. When I discovered this, I haven't gone back yet to the old version because I really like the presentation. So we'll put in our passage, and just like we did before, we'll do it. But you'll notice that we have styles now. We have 3 styles. There's this style, and the second style, and the third style. And then within each style, we can choose one of these 3 colors. So let's pick the green one, and then we could change it to orange. And what it does is it animates the text. So the little marker there is telling you where you are in the 66 books of the Bible. And then you have the verse. And you notice you got this nice animation. Very clean, very easy to use. This is the one that I prefer to use. And when I click plus, there it is. I get the verse. It tells them where I'm at. And then it shows them the text and brings it in. And I really like this feature. Now you notice at the bottom right, there's this little signal that appears here. So we'll talk about this in a little bit, but if someone is on the mobile app connected to Proclaim, they'll see all the slides on their phone. In fact, let me go ahead and do that now so you can see that. So here it is, and we'll go ahead and open up Proclaim. Proclaim is right here. That's what it looks like. And probably should get a little more power to my phone so it doesn't die on me. And now you notice that my Bible app is not showing up. And that's because we're not in presentation mode. So let me go ahead and do that. We'll go back to Proclaim. This is a nice little feature. So here we go. We're going to go on air here at the top right. And now you can see the slide. Now we'll go back to my iPhone and we'll bring that in here. And now you can see I have the option to follow or control. Now the control would not be available for your audience. I'm set up to control it, and that's why I have that ability. But I'm just going to choose follow. And so I'll tap on follow, and there you go. So whatever I do in the presentation, Logos users who have their mobile app, who downloaded the Proclaim app, they'll be able to see everything on their own phone. And that's pretty handy. Okay, so really wonderful feature integration there with Logos. All right, let's go back here. Let's turn off the on-air, and we'll continue with this. Now, let's go to the next one. We'll add item, and let's do, we did content already. Essentially, content is your free-for-all page. Now, this is where at the top, this information comes really handy, okay? You can add text, a text box, church name, etc. All these things can be set ahead of time. So if we wanted to add the church name, if I had that figured out, I can set up ahead of time, but you can put any church name that you want in there and it will show up, okay? And you can set these ahead of time so that when you click on it, it actually will appear. All right, we also just have a plain old text box. So if we want to say hello, we can do that. And then in addition to that, we have a background feature, which you can take media from the Proclaim Media tool, or you can import your own pictures. You can also change colors of backgrounds and things like that. So there's a lot of flexibility. And then you have image blur, fit to height, etc. So a little bit limited, but still works. And then you have the image over here. We can do a foreground. So we can import multiple images on one slide. So for example, we pray for, at our church, different zip codes in our community each week. So I like to put up a map with the slide, and I'll expand it. And then I'll put a little church logo in there, and I'll show you this a little bit on my own slide. But this just goes to show you can put different images and so forth, and more than one image. So that's really, really handy. So we'll go ahead and close that down. All right, so that's the content slide, very flexible. We also have announcements and announcements version 2. So I'm going to click on announcements. You can see that there's a title and there's a description. I'm just typing this information. There's the location, who's the contact, the date and time. It does have a calendar feature, which is really nice. So we can put in the 16th. All right, we can change the format a little bit to make it a little more user-friendly. And then we have all the other settings. So pretty neat there as well. Okay, so nice announcement slides. And then if we go to announcement 2, you'll see it's a little bit fancier, right? So now we can add some shapes, some images, some background, some QR codes. That's pretty handy. So really, really useful. And see, we can actually do this on the fly. So if I put in HTTPS, okay, LearnLogos.com. If you actually try that, you should. If you could actually use your phone right now on that, it should take you to Logos.com. So I'm going to go ahead and test it. And there you go. Open in Firefox once you get it. And sure enough, it took me right to LearnLogos.com.